Have you ever said something and immediately wanted to grab it and shove it back into your mouth? Have you ever done that? Maybe it was sharp or defensive or sarcastic. Maybe it was true but unkind. Maybe it was kind but not true. It happens to me usually when I'm tired or when I'm hungry, hangry, we might say, frustrated. My thoughtfulness slips and the filters falter. My mouth speaks, and I'm generally an external processor anyway, so when I'm not on my A game, whatever comes out, my brain then processes after what I've said. And sometimes what I've said is not helpful. Here's the thing, friends, whether you're tired or hungry or frustrated or whatever other excuse you might have, the thing that I believe to be true is this: what comes out of us when we are under pressure like that, when we are under strain, says something about what is in us. We've been talking these last couple of weeks about making peace. And most of what we've been considering, I think, could be understood as external. We're talking about peace in the world and how we might think about relationships outside of ourselves. It's external. We want peace in that country or peace in that environment, peace in that relationship. Could it be, however, friends, that peace is only possible if we become people of peace? If we find an internal peace that is then lived out, embodied in our interactions with others? Could it be the key to peace outside of us starts with peace in us? I believe this is where James will take us today. Contained in our Newer Testament, a small book, easy to read, but dense, packed with lots of good stuff. What James does for us is not lead us to debate, but into a deeper work of self-examination. Hear these words from the book of James, the 3rd chapter. I'm picking it up with the 13th verse. And again, I'm reading to you from the Message paraphrase, the intent being that we might hear some of these words that are for some of us familiar in maybe a different way. They might fall on our ears a different way, and we might then hear them differently. So here's James 3, beginning with verse 13. Do you want to be counted wise, to build a reputation for wisdom? Well, here's what you do. I mean, don't you love these scriptures? Let me just pause for a second. Don't you love these scriptures that ask a question and then immediately give you the answer? I love that. Jesus is not like that at all, right? If you read Jesus, he's like, well, let me tell you a story, right? You got to unpack it. But here's James, and James just cuts right to it, and the Message paraphrase makes it very simple, right? Do you want to be counted wise? Do you want to build a reputation for wisdom? Well, here's what you do. Live well, live wisely, live humbly. It's the way you live, not just the way you talk, that counts. Mean-spirited ambition isn't wisdom. Boasting that you are wise isn't wisdom. Twisting the truth to make yourself sound wise isn't wisdom. It's the furthest thing from wisdom. It's animal cunning, devilish plotting. Whenever you're trying to look better than others or get the better of others, things fall apart and everyone ends up at each other's throats. Real wisdom, God's wisdom, begins with a holy life and is characterized by getting along with others. It is gentle and reasonable, overflowing with mercy and blessings, not hot one day and cold the next, not two-faced. You can develop a healthy, robust community that lives right with God and enjoy its results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honor. Do you want to be counted wise? Here's what you do. Here's what real wisdom looks like. Maybe I should pause here to give us a little time to wrestle with the idea of what wisdom is. We've got an idea what God's wisdom is about, how we might achieve it, but what are we really talking about when we talk about wisdom? I want to suggest to you that this is different than intelligence. It's different than being smart. Wisdom is understood as knowing how to live. I've heard it described a little bit like if you're on a boat out at sea, you're sailing. Wisdom knows when to adjust the sail and when to change the rudder, right? How to steer into the storm or out of it, as the case may be. I don't know how to sail. I'm making this stuff up. Wisdom means you know how to do that. You don't get out the manual while you're out in the middle of the storm and say, sailing for dummies and try to figure it out as you're going. Wisdom is you know how to do it. You know how to live. Again, not necessarily intelligence, not necessarily book knowledge. Knowing how to be in the world. Do you want wisdom? Do you want to know how to be in the world? Do you want to know how to live well? That's what James is asking here. He says, well, here's what real wisdom is. It's God's wisdom. It begins with a holy life. It's characterized by getting along with others. Living life well involves living life with others. Dang it. Because that complicates it, doesn't it? I have a hard enough time dealing with myself. But this seems to suggest, and I know I've beaten this, I mean, at some point, you're all just going to figure out that I have one sermon, it's better together. Here we are again. I hope, though, that you hear me say, I didn't create that idea. It's God's idea. It's all through our scriptures. Here's James giving us another way of saying it. As straightforward as James has made it, Jesus is even more direct. I know I gave Jesus a hard time. Lots of times he's telling these parables and stories, gets us all off track. But here's Jesus, again in the Message paraphrase, Luke 6, verse 45. It's who you are, not what you say and do that counts. It's who you are. It's your character. It's who you are. It's your heart, right? Your true being brims over into true words and deeds. It's what's in you that then comes out in your words and your actions. Now, here you might get the idea that it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we do. That's not what this is about. What it says is what we have to focus on, what we have to start. If you're interested in getting the words right, if you're interested in living right, it starts with your heart. It starts with what's inside you. That's the beginning. Peacemaking, then, as we were talking about, this living in wholeness, shalom, right? If we're talking about that kind of a life, peacemaking starts then inside of us. What grows in our world is shaped by what lives in our hearts. Again, words, actions matter. But if we want them to reflect peace, if we want them to be about peace, it starts by paying attention to our inner lives. So Jesus and James here call out fake wisdom. When our words are right, we're saying the right thing, but our hearts are still trying to win or trying to get ahead. Have you ever, I'm going to date myself here. I don't think that these were actually on, it was probably in syndication. Leave It to Beaver. Do you know the Leave It to Beaver? Right? Wally and the Beav. They had a friend. Do you remember the friend? Eddie Haskell. Eddie would come over and he would start talking to Mrs. Cleaver. Oh, and he was smooth. Right? But he was evil. He was always getting them in trouble. Always, he said the right thing, but he was inside, he was always looking for the angle. He was always up to something. James says that's not real wisdom. That's manipulation at best, right? Trying to win, trying to get it. Jesus reminds us what's in your heart will find its way out. Almost always, Eddie got found out, right? The Cleavers loved on him anyway. I think they just, well, maybe we can be a good influence on him. I know I've had some people in my life that let me come around and hang around because they hoped maybe I'd straighten up if they could show me a different way. In this case, what I want us to think about is that here's a little illustration to take with you. Hopefully, you're familiar with a tube of toothpaste. Once you squeeze the tube, it doesn't matter if you try to pinch it from the bottom, or if you're one of those animals who just grabs it right in the middle and squeezes it. It squirts out. And once it's out, I don't know if you've tried this. Really, really hard to get it back in. I won't say impossible. But once you squeeze it, it's out. That's the way it's made. That's the way it's supposed to be. Our words are the same way. Our actions are the same way. Once they're out, they reveal what's been inside of us all along. We could try to reframe them, try to explain them, try to patch over them, but the truth is, we'll speak from and act from what is in us. Because eventually, at some point, we're going to get squeezed. That's the nature of being alive. I use this example all the time, and I don't know, I've been on this planet 50 plus years, and I've been driving a car since I was 15 and a half, or whatever that is when you can get a permit. It doesn't matter how many sermons I've preached, how many sermons I've listened to. I'm a baptized believer of Jesus. If you cut me off in traffic, I'll lose my religion. There's something that happens that instantly turns off every Christ-like fiber in my body. And I imagine you are the Antichrist. You are evil. You got up in the morning, got in your car, drove around the block until I got on the highway, and then purposefully cut me off. That's how it feels, doesn't it? Now, normally, I don't speed up and try to cut you off back, or I don't try to run you off the road, or I don't do anything to harm anyone. I might say something inappropriate to be repeated in church, but that's normally about it. But you hear what I'm saying, friends? What is in you will eventually get squeezed. Maybe it's when you're tired, maybe it's when you're hungry, maybe it's when you're frustrated, maybe it's when that jerk cuts you off in traffic. But then it comes out, you get squeezed. So here's what I think we should be about then. We need to fill ourselves up with more good stuff, yeah? So that when we get squeezed, the good stuff comes out. Yeah? The more we're filled with peace, with humility, with wisdom, then the more of that can come out of us. And eventually, it comes out. Are there any programmers, like computer programmers in the house today? This was a phrase that was popular, garbage in, garbage out. Right? So the work of peace has to begin in our heart. We need to have more peace in us for peace to come out of us. And that's our first challenge. What I want you to do is today, tomorrow, soon-ish, spend a little time asking, what's in me? Check your heart. Spend a little time in that self-reflective moment. If you're like me, that can be difficult. I sit down to pray and my mind goes all over the place, right? I sit down to spend time with God and my neighbor's got chickens. So when I'm out on my front porch, now I'm hearing chickens. I love my neighbors. God tells me I have to. Chickens and all. I've got, just as an aside, I've got one of those apps on my phone that lets you can hear the birds and it identifies the birds. It does not identify chicken. I tried it today. So for you, it might be difficult, is what I'm trying to say, but this interior work, this self-reflective work, so there's a couple of things you might do. You might just, when you stop, you might get a journal out. Just get a piece of paper or put it on your phone and the Notes app on your phone, or voice record it if that's the easiest thing to do. You hear what I'm saying? Let's just get rid of the excuses. We've got all kinds of technology and tools today to make this simple. Your mind might wander all over the place. That's okay, but get a tool that can help you focus for that moment and just start asking, what's in me? What are my motivations? What am I really passionate about? What's keeping me up at night? Who am I inside, right? Not who do I pretend to be. This is the thing that makes this really hard, because we're asking you to be very honest about who you are, and we are really good about fooling the world and fooling ourselves. To put on a mask, to dress it up, to pretend. Here's I don't know if you know this, God already knows it all. There's no hiding from God. This is not for God's benefit that we talk this way, confession this way, this self-reflection. It's for our benefit. So we just become real about who we are and what's going on. This isn't to shame you. Some of what we're going to reveal about ourselves, some of what we're going to identify in ourselves isn't all that pretty. It's not exciting and wonderful. It might not look a lot like Jesus. This isn't to shame you or cause you to feel guilty. This is about being honest so that we can then begin to surrender these bits and pieces of ourselves. The goal is to move towards shalom, wholeness, and it starts by recognizing the broken pieces of who we are. We're all broken. We don't need to hide from God. So maybe a journal, maybe it's an app, maybe it's something. What are you carrying? What are you afraid of? Are you resentful? Are you grieving? Is it pride? What is it that's inside you? Ask those questions. And then begin moving towards shalom by letting those things go, giving those things to God, asking God to replace those things in your life with the peace, the wisdom, right? Knowing how to live that the Spirit can make possible. How do you know if you're making progress? Don't you want to know if you're getting closer to being a person of peace? Yeah? You want to have some way of knowing? What does real peace look like when it takes root in you? Have you heard this from Galatians chapter 5? This is again in the Message. What happens when we live this way? Live as we begin to become people of peace. He, being God, brings gifts into our lives much the same way fruit appears in an orchard. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. How do you know if peace is taking root, if this wholeness is taking root? You begin to see this fruit. We call it fruit of the Spirit. Have you heard of that? Not fruit of the loom, that's something else. Fruit of the Spirit. It begins coming out of you. Affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in the heart, a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life, able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. That all sounds good. These fruits, as they're more commonly translated, are this: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And they don't grow by accident. They grow when the soil is right, when we let the Spirit into our lives. That's why I say I believe this all is a matter of prayer. This all starts with prayer, and how you pray is up to you, but I think it's about this surrender. It's about saying, God, this is who I am, and I want your Spirit to help me live the way that you tell me I can live. So that's our second challenge, is to pray. Right, you're going to examine your heart. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to just begin to pray. And again, I've been kind of honest for this for a while now, but it could be a breath prayer where you inhale and you're thinking of a phrase, Jesus, bring me peace. You exhale, to my heart. Bring me peace to my heart. You just find a phrase that works for you, whatever it could be, a breath prayer. It's a rhythm that keeps us focused on what we're asking God to do in our lives. It's this rhythm just as natural as breathing. Examine your heart. And then begin this conversation with God. God, help me. Fill me with your peace, right? That's what the prayer essentially is. It can shape your tone, your posture, your presence, and it takes practice. So if you don't immediately become a person of peace, if you spend an hour in prayer and then you go out and the chickens at your neighbors drive you crazy, you just get to try it again, right? You just start over. You get to try it again. It takes practice. And as we get deeper and deeper, this work will begin to change the rhythms of how we live and how we respond. If you're looking for a more immediate application, let me just ask the question, what's in your heart? Is it tender or tired? Is it anxious? Is it angry? Have you surrendered your heart, or is it guarded? Maybe right in this moment, what you need to do is to say, God, I need help. If you want an immediate application, maybe just say that one sentence prayer, God, help. Maybe what you need to do today is to reach out to somebody you've been short with. Did you say something and you immediately regretted it? If you didn't then follow up with apologizing and repairing and reconciling with that person, maybe that's your work today. Maybe it's being gentle in a conversation you're already amped up for. Do you rehearse those kind of conversations in your head? You're going to have a conversation with your spouse. You know it's not going to go well, so you start practicing what you're going to say. Do you do that? Am I the only one who does this? Maybe you've got a coworker, friend, a neighbor with chickens, and there's some confrontation, and you begin to practice your speech. Do you do this? Maybe today, when you're doing that practicing, you say, whoa. How do I communicate love? How do I use my words and my action, my posture, my body language? How do I enter into this conversation with gentleness? Maybe that's your work today. Maybe it's just pausing before you post or email or respond to a post or an email. You know, the danger we have with our electronic communication so many times is that we supply a tone when we read something on a page. And if you're tired or hungry or frustrated, you know what kind of tone you supply? It tends to be negative, right? You believe the worst in other folks. So maybe what you need to do is just pause before you reply, before you post, before you respond. And just ask, before you succumb to the pressure and what's in you gets squeezed out, say, God, would you help fill me with your peace, with your love, with your kindness, with your generosity? Would you give me those fruits of the Spirit? And trust that the transformation doesn't start with just trying harder. It starts by surrendering to God. So let's practice that now. Let's pray. God, I want to draw on the wisdom of the psalmist who in Psalm 139 prayed this. It becomes our prayer today. Investigate our life, O God. Find out everything about us. Cross-examine and test us. Get a clear picture, God, of what we're about. See for yourself whether we've done anything wrong, and then, God, guide us on the road to eternal life. God, as we think about the ways in which we want you to search us and try us, as we think about the ways in which we want you to examine us and lead us, what we're asking is that you would till that soil of our heart, pull out what poisons, plant what brings peace. Let our lives overflow with your wisdom and your ways. In the name of Christ, I pray these things. Amen.